published regarding educational guidelines. For anybody that's not familiar, real quick, there was a case recently here in Maine with a student, the last name is Maines, M-A-I-N-E-S, who was transitioning from male to female, and this individual was given a hard time for the school system to use the bathroom that they identified with. It was a huge thing, and then made national news. And the father actually is now giving out speeches about the whole ordeal. I think they recently published a book. I wish I could attend one of those talks. I think it would be really informative and just really interesting, if nothing else. I'm not sure currently where they're giving those talks. I think it's been all over the place. So anyone that's interested should look that up. And I think I'm going to check out the book too and give it a read. Anyway, so back to the educational document. Was mostly written because of this case. And there's been a big fight with our governor, LePage, which, I don't like to get into the politics and things, but personally I feel has been quite an embarrassment for the state of Maine, regardless of where you fall on the party spectrum. They have guidelines for that could easily be transferred to places of employment for employers. There's no specific document for employers to utilize. Of course, there are anti-discrimination laws put in place. However, there is a lot of gray area, and there's still a lot of work that needs to be done to minimize the effects that are had in the workplace. So while it's illegal for me to be fired on the basis of, my gender identity or expression or sexuality, there's still a lot of language in the laws that don't make a lot of sense. Like this lady was telling me, the legislatures, they're really behind in the times because they're still looking at gender stuff or transgender issues as a sexual preference or sexuality. It's really confusing. Has nothing to do with gender identity. Like your sexual preference, as if you're hetero or queer or whatever, has nothing to do with being trans. And in some ways, I kind of have had that argument to myself of, why is it that LGBTQA is a thing still? Because the T doesn't really correlate to the rest of those letters. It's again, it's a gray area. Anyway, so I basically feel more prepared to send an email back to my employer now, to just kind of tell them that, hey, this isn't a pick and choose of who you tell and don't tell. I don't need my specifics discussed with anyone, other than that maybe an announcement could be made, just letting people know that I now, prefer male pronouns, and that I currently would prefer to go by Jules instead of Julie. And that includes not just like staff members, but clients, because I don't want to overstep legal boundaries by sharing too much with clients. I do not owe anybody any explanations. If I wanted to fully transition and not tell anybody, that is completely my business. But I don't operate that way, because I feel like, we need to have these discussions. We need to be more open and not shy away from the difficult stuff. And hopefully someday it's not an issue at all. But right here in 2016, I think that these talks need to be had in order to make any progress forward for, our future generations to come. And so, I do want employers and clients to just be aware that it's okay to be confused and to have questions, and it's okay to feel uncomfortable, but it is not okay to discriminate, and it's not okay to not honor my preferences of, using male pronouns and such. So, while the talk today with the Human Rights Commission lady wasn't really probably necessary or super informative, I did get the name of a lawyer in Portland that I could contact should the need arise. Really hoping it doesn't come to that. I don't foresee a huge issue. I think that my company wants to be in the legal arena. Like, I think they want to be within their, legal boundaries. I don't think they want to do anything that could be illegal. But they are kind of teetering, if I can say that. And I say teetering because, I was pulled into the office of the owner and directly asked if I was seeking out help. Well, that's quite frankly none of their business. I had no problem sharing or answering that question by saying, why, yes, I self-selected a therapist to see once a week because that is important to me in my life. But that really was not any of their business, and I did not have to answer that. So, if anything else, if people have questions, I say that some of this comes with common sense, but I feel like everyone's going to have a different idea of what is okay and what's not okay. And if I was having this conversation like a few years ago, I was a much different person, very insecure. I have been put in situations where I was very vulnerable. I had, for instance, been hospitalized, and a lot of it was due to the struggles that I was having with my gender identity and coming to terms with who I really was. And I did overshare information about my gender and struggles that I was going through with a clinician of a former employer, because she kind of went into an unofficial counselor role on the phone, asking me questions and kind of prodding me along. And while it wasn't right for her to do that, I also should have put my foot down and said, we're not having this conversation, goodbye. So I don't really put all the blame on her, though, legally, it was not okay. And I don't necessarily think she meant ill harm either. And I think that's something to remember, is that people get so happy these days, is to remember that people are human, and we don't always think before we speak, and sometimes we think that we're doing more good than harm, and then we realize, or don't realize, later that we might have actually caused more of a mess for ourselves. So it's important to try to remember where people are coming from when they ask questions. Are they asking out of pure curiosity or ignorance, or are they ill-intended? And I think right now I feel that my employer isn't really totally ill-intended, but I don't think that they're very warm-hearted. It's somewhere in between, and I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. I want to be optimistic. Wow, this is 15 minutes long. Holy shitballs. What a fucking long video. Just gonna put it out there. I had another video I wanted to post, but, there was something else I wanted to talk about, but I will post another video if I feel inclined to do so. Thanks to anybody that got through this long-ass video. Take care, guys. It's a beautiful one out. Bye.